So we are live. Hi everybody, and for those who are joining, thank you. Okay, I think I just lost Gideon. Okay, so the purpose of this session, academic connect or let's talk nerdy. There's quite a lot of content about getting into grad school, but with time I've realized that there's really not much content about being in grad school, life in grad school, as well as life after grad school. So that's basically a new angle that I would like to explore for us to just come and share our experiences, because sometimes we are in scenarios and we feel that, oh, we are the only one experiencing it. But as you talk to other people, you realize that, oh, it's just not you. Like, we all have these collective experience. So that's the purpose of this session. And before we start, we introduce ourselves. We introduce ourselves. So I'll start. Barbara Boaji. I'm a PhD candidate in civil engineering at University of Sherbrooke in Canada. I'm a Ghanaian, so after my undergraduate studies at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, I moved to France for my master's, still in civil engineering. Out of academia, I use my social media channels as a platform to share information on studying abroad, admission, scholarships, and basically life and in between. I also love cats, and before moving to Canada, I used to travel a lot. But right now, my economic power and life in Canada does not really allow that. I also really like to spend time in nature with family and friends, and I like love. I watch a lot of love-based series, so if you have any recommendations on this kind of reality show, let me know. So we are going to introduce. We are going to introduce ourselves according to how we appear on the screen. So Ajibodi will go, Lois, Jeanette, and my co-host, I think he's lost his link, but he will introduce himself and he will serve as the moderator. So let's get this rolling. Ajibodi, let's go.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here. Once again, my name is Ajibode Adekun. I'm a Nigerian. I I firstly studied computer science at Tai University of Education in Nigeria, and I came to China to study computer science and technology at Indian Science Tech University. I'm currently studying my PhD in software engineering at Northwestern Polytechnical University in China as well. And my research area are many interdisciplinary software engineering. So my research area are many interdisciplinary.
Okay, I guess I can go then. I don't know. Am I the only one getting feedback? But
I'm
no.
also getting a little bit of feedback, but yeah, he's done. You can go now.
Okay. Hi everyone watching, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from. Good to have you guys here. Um, like I always say, that I care about everyone, what everything everyone does. So please share the link. Tell somebody about it if you're watching or you're joining in. So my name is Lois Dante. I'm currently studying a PhD in materials engineering, but specifically, you can find my field of study under nanoscale and surface engineering. And before doing that, I actually had my undergraduate in University of Ghana in material science and engineering. Then moved over to the UK to have to do an MN, which is a master's in engineering in materials engineering, but it was under the a supervision and a project called conversion of biofuels. Then I moved over to Ghana to have an MPhil in University of Ghana again. That was an extension of my MNg into an MPhil to do more of fieldwork based community projects. Then I came back to the UK now doing the PhD. So it's been a long thread of journey. It's not as straightforward as everyone, but I'm sure bits and pieces of the story will serve as what we are dealing with in terms of graduate school and its application. So yeah, that's a little about me.
Okay, so I'm next. So, hi everyone. My name is Janetta J. I'm currently I'm going into my fifth year of my PhD in inorganic chemistry. I currently doing my studies at Western University in London, Ontario, Canada. And before I became a PhD student, I actually did my bachelor's in chemistry at uh, Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson University. And I'm hoping in the future I become a faculty member, but I'm still in the process of, getting my degree, doing a couple of postdocs, and I'm hoping that I'll have a cool research program along with doing a lot of outreach to show that, we can care about underrepresented communities and also doing good science and not maintain the status quo. And on my free time, I like to do mixed martial arts and play some video games and read. And I look forward to this conversation with everyone. Oh, yeah, and I'm of Ghanaian descent.
Awesome, awesome. So I think we lost Gideon. So I'm going to start with the moderating, and once he joins, I'm going to have him take over. So I'd like to say thank you all for agreeing to do this with me. Like I know that we all have crazy schedule, so I really appreciate this. If you're watching, kindly share the links to other people to join. So we'll go right in. Like the first question for us to discuss was how difficult was it for you to enter into grad school? Anybody can take it. Like how difficult was it for you?
I guess I can go first. I was fortunate in terms of getting to grad school. By my second year, I kind of had an idea that I wanted to do graduate studies, like at least a master's. So I started like trying to get research experience and like doing like extracurriculars and talking with people. So by my fourth year, I had like research experience, or actually my fifth year because I took 5 years to do my three. But by my fifth year, I had like a publication. I had like a bunch of awards. So like on paper, I was a good candidate. On top of this, which I recommend everyone to do, or I think a bunch of us all know this, is like I made sure to contact who I was interested in. So like sending out an email saying like, hey, like I'm going to this conference. I see that you're going to be there. Can we talk? And it kind of worked out for me. I did fall into a trap of putting my eggs in one basket, but I ended up with a different supervisor in the end. But like the process was fortunate for me, easy because I had the grades and the experience going forward. But people's experience are different, so yeah.
Yeah, talking about people's experiences are different. That's absolutely true because, like I explained earlier in the introduction, mine wasn't like a straightforward route at all. Um, Basically, I like I said, I had to do a couple of internships, and I was moving directly from Ghana. So I can talk about. I'm sure that if you want to talk about probably rejections on another day, I'm the perfect candidate to have here because I grew a tough skin through this whole. I mean, graduate school applications. Um, the rejections upon rejections in the morning became very normalized to the extent that even one win didn't feel like worth it enough to even clear all the rejections because I was drained. I was utterly drained by that time. But yeah, it's not been a straightforward journey. Like Jeanette as well, I started to be intentional about the journey by having some internships. And I was back when I was in Ghana, I was really looking forward to a lot of international experience. And so I started, looking for fully funded international internships, fully funded international conferences, which I actually did have. And I think that it gave me a little bit of edge in terms of conversations because I'm able to express various ideas from people from different nationalities and bring new ideas on board in terms of my networking and communications. um I wasn't a first class student, so obviously that also was in the sense of having to, prove myself more than someone who is a first class student on why I needed that particular opportunity. Now, talking about opportunity as well, I just didn't need any opportunity for admission, but I needed a scholarship. And so that one was also battling with a lot of people in terms of, I mean, application wise, why you stand out as a very good candidate. So I think that amassing all this international conferences, international internships. One thing led to the other. There were recommendations from here and there. I knew that that was my selling point because probably my undergraduate would not be my selling point. So, if somebody I've had to work with or an internship can actually recommend that this is a good student, trust me, that 3 months, 6 months, I worked very hard, going in at 6 a.m., coming back home at 11 a.m. It was crazy schedules, but I think all paid off. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, Madam Kule, do you have anything to say? You want to chip in something? Then, when you are done, Gideon can introduce himself and he can start the moderation. Madam Kule, we
Okay.
can't hear you. Are you
I think
speaking?
getting into the graduate school is not too easy. And yeah, I'm saying something. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Can you hear me perfectly? Okay.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say is getting into graduate school is easy and it's not easy. It's easy if you have the financial capability. It's not easy if you are looking for fully funded scholarship. Because I can tell you that with second class lower or even with your pass, if you have your money, you can get into graduate school. But if you're looking for a scholarship or scholarships, you have to be intentional because you are competing with people with different high profiles. Some people, if you check their profile, you'll be amazed that are you telling me you are just an undergraduate and someone that is coming with a second class offer. During this journey, before I got into this graduate school, I was in Nigeria. I had 2-1, and I was like, where will I take this to? For the fact that there was no body to even help or maybe sponsor whatsoever, I had to look for. I can tell you in 2018, I applied to more than 50 scholarships. Yes, but on getting one, when looking for the other things to do like visa processing or whatsoever, it was very difficult. I was denied the visa, despite the fact that I was on full scholarship. But in 2019, I reapplied. I applied to more than 60
Madam Kule,
schools.
just a minute. You were denied visa to what country? Still China?
To China, yeah.
Okay.
So to China. So I reapplied, though I applied to many other schools like that. But there are many factors to be considered when you are applying to graduate schools. Like maybe the rank of your school, the school you graduated from, your own your CGPA, and the course that you did, how competitive you are, your profile as well. So all those things put together can enhance your scholarship application. But upon all, in 2019, I applied again to more than 60 schools to be frank, and I still got only one. From 60, I got only one. So that one is what I just build my profile upon. That is what makes me to be in China today. So in all, if you're looking for a scholarship, you have to be intentional. You can't even just sit down, apply to 5 schools. You not apply to any. Even those with first class, with GRE, with TOEFL, they are even applying to more than 20 schools. And you with second class up are applying to 5 schools and now folding your arms. You think the scholarship is coming? No. So you have to be intentional. Entering graduate school is not easy when it comes to scholarship, but with your money, it's super easy. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Since I'm sorry if I'm laughing, but since like I've been seeing like posts where people are like, Yeah, I always thought it was an exaggeration. And people are like, oh, I've applied to City, I've applied to 100, because I never really saw how feasible that was. So it's really nice to really hear that, oh, these stories are not exaggerations. I always thought that maybe they were clickbaits and all that. And just a question before Gideon takes the question. Do you know what you were doing wrong in all these applications? Because I spoke to a friend, was it earlier this year, who had also done a lot of applications. And upon discussing with him, I realized that in the beginning you have so much energy. So like in the beginning you're putting in good work, but as you are applying and you're not getting responses, like you become so tired that your standard begins to lower. So you are not putting in as much work as you are supposed to. Was that your case, or you know that you were putting in still top application but it was just not working for you?
I think the problem that I could foresee then is that maybe because of my profile, I didn't have a stronger profile then,
Oh,
if I
okay.
can put it that way, with 2-1, no research knowledge, no, the work experience is even out of what I have been doing. I have been teaching, and I have been applying for computer science, and computer science is formal technical. And from after my this thing, I have, okay, let's say I have NCE, that's a national Nigeria certificate in education, that's an associate degree. After that, University of Education, and now apply for pure computer science.
Okay.
Even if you want to apply for something like that, you have to let your SOP portray that, oh, this is what I have been doing, and this is what I want to do, to link the two, so that you'll be able to tell them that I can do this kind of thing with this kind of my background. I can't be bringing teaching line into computer science when I'm not going for computer education, when I'm not going for information education, when I'm not going for education. So there are many things that was wrong with the application then. But later on, after I know that my application, the one that I got, I think it was a mercy from God, because until I got to China, that I now know that I have been doing many things wrong. So that is my case there.
Okay. Thank you. So before Gideon takes over, like I actually did realize that. So I realized that most people keep on applying, but they don't really look at their profile to the program they want to enter. So actually that's a video like I really want to make where we look at your profile and how to build it. So Gideon, you could introduce yourself with Christina and you can take over the moderation from here. Thank you.
You're muted.
Gideon, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. My name is Gideon Asamoah, and um, currently I'm a research associate at the University of Ottawa in Canada, with the Department of Epidemiology. My background is in medical laboratory technology, but I've switched to epidemiology now. So I did my master's at the University of Saskatchewan and presently working at the University of Ottawa. So that is a brief description um, of me. I think, Christina, sorry for the inconvenience. Okay. I'm happy you could finally join. I don't know how you were able to join, though. That's great. So I'll also let Christina introduce herself, and then we will continue from there. Sure.
Okay. I hope you can hear me. I'm Christina Pra. I'm Ghanaian, and I'm schooling in South Korea, nuclear power plant engineering. I started with biological sciences, and I ended up with nuclear power plant engineering. So basically, that's me.
Okay. Thank you, Christina. Um, so I can see we've already started a discussion, and then um, most of the discussion has been made on graduate. So today we basically I don't we are starting a new series known as the um Let's Get Nerdy. And then so myself and Barbara, we came together to start a series on YouTube for graduate students and undergraduate students, have a lot of discussion which would include graduate experience, which would include mentorship, and everything that is associated with graduate studies, including interviews and then discussing research and many other things. So today we decided to have introductory introductory episode for Let's Get Nerdy, and we are doing by the fireside. Generally, we are going to have um, something like a discussion, like not any specific discussion, but discussion about graduate studies, including application, schooling, experiences, and everything that's got to do with graduate studies. So I think we've discussed a lot of things. Even though I wasn't in, I was listening because I was also trying to get Christina in. So about preparing for graduate school, the application process, the documents, and everything. And fortunately for us, having this discussion now, most graduate applications are open from September 1. So I think it's going to be a lot of like people are going to get a lot of education through the discussion we are going to get if they are planning to apply for any graduate program or they are planning to put in some applications. So um, I don't know. I was a little bit out. I don't know if we've discussed the process and the documents and the resources that are needed. Barbara, have you discussed that already?
So basically, what we discussed was how easy was it to get into grad school and they share the experience. That's basically what we talked about.
Okay, thank you. Can we share a little bit on the application process, documents, and probably the resource that you would need when you want to start a graduate application? So, Lois, I think you can start. You are muted, please.
Hey, anti-guy like me. Sorry. Okay, so basically mine was should I say a form of proposal way. So I reached out to a supervisor. It's quite a long journey. I'm not ready to share that, but he asked me to bring a proposal because he was writing a funding, which was under what we call the Global Challenges Research Fund under the UKRI, UK Research and Innovation. So I shared a one-page proposal with him on basically the idea I want to bring on board. So he developed that proposal to write into the funding. So when he got the funding, automatically I was admitted to the school I was. I realized nothing was, I didn't have to fill in, put in any form of, I mean, statement of purpose, letter of motivation, and CV. Even that, all what he asked me for was an IELTS exam, and I told him I had actually done a master's in the UK already, so I don't need an IELTS. And he said, "Oh, okay, true," because it was still valid, and it got me through. But for the master's degree, which I had to apply for, it was scholarship known as the Liverhome Royal Society African Award. So it was by merit, and I needed to submit my CV. I needed to submit a research proposal. At that time, there was that load shedding in terms of electricity back in Ghana. So I wrote an idea called the Energizing a Billion Lives, which was the research proposal I sent through, and a motivational letter. In addition to that, they asked for my transcripts back in undergraduate. They asked for my CV, which I tailored towards the application I was applying for, mentioning relevant experiences or whatever experience I've had and how it connects to the master's I was applying for. So I got through. When I got through, they then asked again for recommendation letter. So at the time of my undergraduates during my fourth year, I had actually come and do an internship in the UK already. So I used that supervisor I worked with, and she was highly notified for biofuel production back then. So I think a recommendation from her also helped spearheading as well as my supervisor from University of Ghana, Legon. So basically, those things I can remember on top of my head. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So if I heard you right, yours was more of like an advertised research topic.
Yeah, so the masters was advertised, but yeah, it went through a couple of series of um, steps, but the PhD wasn't advertised at all. I was in constant communication with that supervisor, working with their research team. I helped publish a paper with them. So I think when I needed a PhD, he didn't have funding by then. So that particular funding, which was the Global Challenges Research Fund, had opened and he was planning to put in an application. So he asked me to write the research proposal, which I did. He modified it based on his experience and submitted it. So when it got through, I was more or less like the student on that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So it basically got to do that. Like, if you're applying for a school, it could be through an advertised like research, or it could be you ad- like contacting the supervisor, or it could be like if it's a taught program, maybe for instance those in the UK, it could be just applying to the program and then getting into it. So Christina, you are in South Korea. How was yours like? The process, documents, and the resources that you needed to apply. I think I've heard your story before. Can you tell us again? Maybe in
Okay.
brief this time.
Okay, so in South Korea, the application process is a little bit different. It's not so different from other countries, but my school, it's totally different because they didn't really need a background in engineering or in nuclear to employ you. So what is happening in my school is that we are connected to the Korea Hydro Power and Electric, I think, company, and they are deploying nuclear power plants globally. So, before they can win the tender, they need to train some people from that country. So if you express an interest, usually, so now I work with the admissions team. What we do is we email government and the ministries of energies in other countries to bring people, to nominate people to apply. But I was not connected to any ministry of energy or anything. I used to live with a family during my national service, and the man was working with the Abuazi thermal plants, VRA and Abuazi thermal plants. So anytime he will come home with some document, he will ask me to write something for him. And I realized he was doing something on nuclear, and they deployed him to come and study here. So he told me, "Oh, my school sent me an email that they've opened admissions. Would you like to apply?" I said, "No, I don't have a background, but I'll give it a try." But before then, I had applied to so many schools, to more than 200 schools, because every week I had a plan of applying to about 20 schools or emailing about 20 professors, and I was always getting rejections. So I just gave it a try. I wrote my statement of purpose, why I want to join the program. And funny enough, I applied without thinking I'll be called. I thought it was just one of those things. That's what I have fun doing, applying. So I was just there. They sent me an email that I should prepare for an interview in 3 days. So I just read a lot of things about nuclear. And funny enough, we had the interview and they asked me nothing about nuclear. They just wanted to see my interest and my willingness to learn. So I got into the program and I saw it was interesting, but it was truly nuclear engineering, like deep nuclear engineering. And I had to survive. So basically that's it. But I have lots of experience with doing applications to almost every country, because I wrote down list of continents, broke down into countries, into number of schools I want to apply from this country and all that. So I looked at most of the requirements, and I'm quite experienced in all those. But good enough. I survived in this program. I've been able to publish some papers, and Just recently, I was able to publish one paper with MDPI. So you don't necessarily need a background, you just need the willingness to learn. If you are willing to learn, to explore, to move out of your comfort zone, to know new things, connect with people, I think that's basically it. Undergraduate is just a basis to actually beginning your education. The real education is where you are willing to research in that particular place you are placed in. I mean, so yeah, basically that's me, and that's the little I can see for now.
Okay, good. Thank you. That is another aspect of graduate application that we've also gotten to know about, like switching from a different like background or discipline to a totally different one that you've not like maybe you never thought that was where you might even want to be. And then also the importance of having contact and then your experience with some, maybe through internships or like through your relationship with some supervisors or let me say lecturers. So I'll go to Jeanette. Can you also share a little bit on yours? Was it purposeful or yours also happened by accident?
Okay, so it's a bit of like purposeful and by accident, but I guess I want to highlight one thing about me. So I'm a domestic student, so I'm aware of some of the privileges I've have compared to other people. Like I don't have to take any like English test or anything.
Okay,
I
Gina,
just
just a
need.
minute. So when she says she's a domestic student, she means she's Canadian
Yeah,
too.
I was born
So
in Canada. Yeah, I was born in Canada. So like um I I have an advantage compared to some other people. So I just want to emphasize that. So for me, I just happened to do a course and I read a paper that I really like, and the professor that I thought the research was very interested in was at Western University. So I essentially emailed her, said like, "Hey, your work is interesting. Can we talk?" Um, we chatted at a conference. Fortunately, I got an honorable mention for my poster. So like, she congratulated me after and asked me if I wanted to apply for this provincial scholarship, so Ontario Graduate Scholarship, which I did. I submitted my application, so wrote my personal statement of interest, connected my CV, sent my transcript, and I got in. I was one of those people who got like invited to the open house. Unfortunately, the person I originally wanted to go with already had students, so she didn't have enough space in her lab. So she told me about my current supervisor. So that's when the accident comes into the situation. In hindsight, probably shouldn't have put my eggs in one basket because I didn't really look around. So whenever I tell people when they look for grad school, and clearly everyone is doing it in in our group, like look at as many places as you can if you have the privilege to. That's something I wish I did, but I got in. I didn't really have much of an interview. Like I talked to him via Skype when it was really in. We chit chat. I visit the school, saw the lab, and I guess like I agreed, and that's how I got into grad school.
Okay. So both purposeful and accidental. Thank you, Janet, for yours. Okay, Adenkule, can you tell us about your process, the resources, and the material? Yeah. Do you hear me? Was I muted?
no, you're not.
Okay.
Yeah, I think people are complaining about my voice. I don't know if it's clear now.
It is now. Now we
I
can
can
hear
hear you
you.
now.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I think people are complaining that my voice is somehow low. Okay, perfect. I think the way it works here in China is somehow different from the way it works in other countries. like the US. I think majority of the school in the US will not ask you for proposal, but in your statement of purpose, you have to state the kind of research area that you want to work and the professors you will want to work with. That is not how it works here, though. There is something that we call uh, a study plan in China. If you are applying to schools in China, you need your transcripts, you need your study plan, you need your certificates. And if you are coming from an English speaking country, you only need a letter from your school that your undergraduate study or your previous study was conducted in English. That letter is okay for admission in China. And I also think for PhD, you need your uh, research proposal. But for masters, you do not need research proposal. But for PhD, it is very compulsory. And another thing about PhD is that without securing a professor, you cannot apply for a PhD program in China. That is one thing about China. And before a professor will be able to say, I've accepted you or I will work with you, you must have convinced him or her to some certain level. Like maybe you present your proposal and it will make it a work. He or she will schedule a meeting with you. You guys will discuss about the proposal and he will now issue a letter to you. That is an acceptance letter. Without that acceptance letter, I'm not seeing anything. And we have many kinds of scholarship in China for PhD programs. For PhD program, I mean, like ANSO. For ANSO scholarship, you must get a supervisor 100%, and that one is the best scholarship in China. It comes with, a very cool money. Another one is the CSC scholarship. That one also is a cool money as well for PhD. And without without publication, it is possible that you may not end up getting both ANSO and CSC, but you will surely get another scholarship. The difference between ANSO scholarship, CSC scholarship, and other scholarships is that both ANSO and CSC cover, both of them cover your insurance, but other scholarships may not. And you will want to do a call. You want to have a scholarship that will cover your insurance. So that is why it is good to have one kind of research experience or the other. So I think every other documents you'll be able to get, but the most paramount things for PhD program are your research proposal and your publications. With that, you will surely land a PhD full funding scholarship. I think that's.
Okay, I'd like to just chip in something before like Gideon you continue. So like one thing I've realized is a common theme for everybody is like being intentional and actually looking at the program requirements before you go ahead. I'm just going to share like a few minutes about my story. For my masters, I applied to 4 programs, and out of it, I got 3 admissions out of 4. I applied to France, Belgium, the UK, and Canada, and I didn't get into Canada, but I also know why, and that's what I want to highlight on. And it was because I was complacent. Like the university I did apply to, I knew you needed a research supervisor to apply for you. But in time past, almost everybody in my university or in my program went into that university. So I just assumed that it was it was like it was implied that just because I went to that university, I studied that program, I was going to get admitted. But the issue, what I missed was all of them actually reached out to professors who were willing to supervise them before they applied. So I just didn't do that because I just assumed that, hey, I'm from this university, I'm from this program, so I'm going to get admitted into it. And that's something that in the future I've become more intentional. So just because you assume that there is a link between maybe your program of study with another university does not mean that you will get selected. So always be intentional, look at the program requirement and do as it says, even if there is like the just because there is a link, that's actually the plus for you, because you know that once you do what you're expected to do, you will get into that's one thing I just wanted to put out there. And also what I realized was almost everybody on the screen, you got into grad school with funding. And I know that you have friends who didn't get that luxury. How has life been for them? And for you also, let's just assume that you didn't get funding. How do you think life would be for you? Would you have been able to survive grad school? So whoever is willing to take that question can take it. Okay.
Okay, so going into grad school, I got the Ontario Graduate Scholarship. So it was like 15,000 a year. For 1 year because it's renewable. So split at by three terms, and whatever your tuition is, they pay it, and then you get the residual amount of money. And basically, under that scholarship, I could. We have to be for grad school. We have to be teachers assistants. So that's a lot where a lot of our money comes from. So because I had that scholarship, I didn't have to TA for 1 semester. So that gave me extra time in the lab. Later on, I got like NSERC, so National Science Engineering Research Counseling scholarship, the Canadian Graduate Scholarship version, and that one pretty much allowed me to not like TA ever, so I can only focus on my research. So I get a bit of extra money compared to my peers. So it's nice to have because they want you to focus on your research only. But if I were not to have any of those scholarships, I think I would have been okay. Though the price, the cost of living is like increasing though, so it's not the best. The only difference is that I would have to like spend time being a teaching assistant, which depending on what you want from your degree, if you want to do more research, that may not be the best if you're not good with juggling these type of tasks, or if you want to teach, it's great. So um, yeah.
Even my thinking is, even if you don't, if I hadn't gotten a scholarship, would I have even been able to leave Ghana? If it is a big question, because
I
the
know.
visa the visa the visa consulate would just deny me, because I was living Ghana on a zero bank account. Like, even if I always make this joke with my mom and my dad, if I sell you, sell my father, sell my sister, I'm sure still we wouldn't be able to make that amount. So I think that getting the scholarship even granted me access to be able to leave Ghana, because obviously we all have scholarship numbers here. So when they type the scholarship number, your details pop up, the amounts you are giving pops up and everything. So they know that for whatever it may be, you're still going to be okay. And moreover, you've got 20 hours of working as well. So if, I mean, for any instance, you cannot, it's not enough, you can still work that 20 hours to get something to buffer, I mean, to help you. So how would I have been if I hadn't gotten the scholarship? I would definitely be in Ghana. I wouldn't have been able to come. So that's it.
Okay, thank you guys.
Uh,
I
Let
think
me just chip in something
okay,
here.
sure.
I just want to put this thing outside to everyone. Without funding, don't think of China at all. Don't even think of it. Unless, yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me very well?
Yes.
We can hear you very well.
Uh, I think I must hear it. Okay, okay. What I'm saying is, without funding or family support, don't think of China at all. I always tell people because people always ask me, can I come there for maybe I will be working and be going to school. If Chinese government catch you, it's a big jail. Oh. So don't even think of it at all. Just know that even with yourself sponsor, if you want to sponsor yourself, maybe your family wants to sponsor you, there must be a certain money in your account that will show that you're going to sponsor yourself. And when you get to China, so that you will not be looking for job. Meanwhile, if you're even coming for postgraduate studying in China, I would never even advise anyone to come as a result of self-sponsoring. It's not even easy because combining that thing, I mean, the research, the coursework, and other things with working is not even visible. It's not visible. Likewise, if the government just have your time, it's not going to be easy on you. So they are not even permitting anyone in X1 visa to work at all. It is illegal in China. This means that if you want to sponsor yourself and you're thinking of uh, working after while schooling, please go to another country. China is not the best way to come. I mean, it's not the best place for you to come. That's what I can say.
Okay, I would also want to say that many people get discouraged when they see that a school they are trying to apply to has no funding or they can't get scholarship. I think you should apply anyway because the more you apply, the more you build confidence. The more you are rejected, the more you find loopholes in your applications, and then you do better. Because I remember I helped a friend do some applications and she said there's no funding, she's not going to go. I said just do it anyway. The school has no funding, just do it anyway. She got into the I mean, she got admission and I told her let's look for external scholarships. So the fact that you are not seeing that the scholarship does not mean you can't get a scholarship or you can't get sponsorship. Sometimes when you gain the admission, um, there's this zeal that comes for you to look beyond what the school is offering to see if you can get external scholarship. So don't give up. If you see a program that you are interested in, just apply anyway. Build your confidence. The rejections should help you seal the loopholes and then make better applications next time. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Christina, for saying this. Like, I just want to piggyback on that. For most people I've actually spoken to, instead of them sitting back to realize the mistakes they make, what they do is they actually blame the other party of not selecting them. And I think that's one mistake you make. Obviously, like as Adenkule said right from the beginning of this session, is like you're competing with people from all over the world, people with 3 or 4 publications. So it's like up to you to sit down. Okay, I didn't get this. Like, where did I go wrong? Is I remember there was a school, I think it was the Luxembourg scholarship, and the people who applied they didn't get, and they were like, the school has no scholarship to give. And they are just putting it out there. So it's like people will apply, but they will not give anybody the scholarship. So I always advise people that the more you apply, the more experience you should get. And if you don't get it, that's okay. Like, just look at how best you can build your applications for the next cycle. So thank you very much for bringing this up.
Well,
Okay, guys. Thanks for sharing your experience with funding. I think we are all here, probably some like, except maybe Janet, who is a domestic student. We all where we are because of funding. Because for me, it was the same. No funding, no school. So if I apply to your school and then you're not giving me funding, I would apply anyway. But it wasn't up to 200 though. Yeah, that was a huge number, Christina. I don't know how you got all those things. So now we will go to, now we've spoken about the experiences, like
Gideon, just
application.
one thing to chip in before. So, if you don't have money, you should also look at tuition-free countries. Because I did my master's in France, and even though I had funding from France, I think I would have still been able to go to France anyways because of the way their system was built. My school fees then was like the school fees itself was around 250 euros, and I think then the exchange rate was 1 is to $6. So even let's say even if it's 1 euro is to 10 Ghana cedis, that's 6 months I was also going to be paid, would have been able to cover it. So these are some of the options you should also explore, because the number of people who are looking for scholarships and the number of scholarships available do not tally. And some people do have the capacity to be able to make it into certain schools. So if you don't really have, at least maybe you have something, I always advise people to look at the tuition free countries as an alternative, because I know UK, Canada, US, the fees are very expensive, especially in like coming from a country where I wasn't paying fees to Canada. Like it always beats my mind. Like they pay fees thrice a year. Where like I always used to paying fees just once a year. So these are all the things you should consider. So yeah, that's what I wanted to chip in.
Yeah, that's really true. I think some German schools and then some European schools also like provide you. I think there were some schools that were like 500 euros per term or per year, so you could also try all those kind of things. We are not saying just because you're not getting funding you shouldn't apply. Please, there are schools that are providing like really like low tuition fees that you could also apply to. But yeah, so that is it. So now we are going to move on to, now we've done application, everything, and all those things. We are going to talk about the experience of like what we go through your studies. I think most of us go through coursework, like before, even if you are doing your PhD, sometimes you go through courseworks. Maybe for the maybe in the UK that maybe sometimes they just jump into the research from the start, but most school like in Canada, in USA, and you have to do some coursework before you go to, and you go through a lot of things. What are some of the challenges you face even when you are doing those things? Like, what are some of the conflict, toxicity in quote that you go through, and how do you resolve, and how do you go through all those things? So we can share our experiences on these ones too.
I would like to start this. For me personally, I think maybe I don't know if I didn't also experience this, and maybe Christina, but coming from an English setting to studying in a French set, it was really hard for me. Even though my program was in English, it was still really not the same, because my professors were not really native speakers. So there are certain concepts like maybe it was a bit difficult for them to explain, and it was also a bit difficult for me to grasp. So for me, the major challenge I had to face was the issue of the language barrier, which really affected my self confidence. I'm not, like I sit in class. I think that was my first time. Like I sit in class and I don't understand anything. And for somebody who has been academically good all her life, like it was a really big battle for me. So sometimes you just had to go back to the basics to figure out. And also, the program was research based, and that was my first. Like in Ghana, most of our program we were prepared to go to become civil engineers, so we are prepared to go into industry. And I come into a setting where it's research based. Like they don't really even the things we were studying, they didn't have books. It was the school's research they were doing, so they were teaching us the research they were doing in their labs. So like there was so it was hard for me. So for me, the major conflict was the issue of a language barrier and trying to overcome that. But it was a good experience for me, because that experience helped me in my current setting, and it helped me to know like when you enter into scenarios where you are not used to, what do you have to do. So that was it for me for the conflict I experienced. It was mostly of the issue of the language barrier and the academic pedagogy. Yeah.
Okay, so I also experienced lots of language barrier and cultural shock. So if you studied in Korea or in any part of Asia,
Yeah,
everything
can I
is
experience something?
different. Everything is just different. The things that you find as the most common sense, something that is totally wrong. So there's so much cultural shock studying in Korea, and the language barrier because they, just as you are saying, they can't explain the concept well, and coming from a totally different background, you have to self study because everything they are telling you, they are saying it on the surface. You don't have the basics to even understand what they are trying to say. Just to go back to the basics is a problem. So you just have to get the book, start from page 1 up to page 500 and whatever. Common installation professor should teach you. You need to get the installation manual, study it on your own. And for nuclear programs, the installation manuals are so huge just because of the security stuff in it. They want to make sure that you are really a nuclear engineer before you can even install them on your computer. So everything is hidden and embedded, and professors know, but they just can't teach you because they can't speak your language. So the language barrier was a bit difficult, but once you grasp how they teach and um, some concepts, I think you'll be fine. You just have to be positive because at a point I kept complaining and complaining. Then I sat down. Is this complaining going to do anything? You just have to sit down and then know that once you are here, there's no turning back. You either die here or you move forward. So you better not go back and disgrace yourself and your family. Make sure you study. So that was the positive thinking that kept me going. But in Asia, the culture shock is really shocking. Yeah. So
Uh,
I think
anyone?
Adekwe, you wanted to say something when she was talking, or you're good now. Adekwe, I thought when she was talking, you wanted to say something, or you're okay now.
Let me also say something here.
Okay, you have to raise your voice a bit.
We can't hear you well, sorry.
Yeah, can you hear me?
But raise your voice a bit. Raise your voice a bit.
Yeah, I want to say something. Can you hear me? Oh,
Okay, baby. I think while he's trying to figure out, let me cover up.
can you not hear?
We
Your
can
voice
It's
hear
a bit
you,
low.
but it's low.
Okay.
It's not really audible. Like I can hear you.
Okay, so whilst covering up for him, one thing I say is that see, graduate school will humble you.
Yeah, can you hear me very well now?
A bit low. See,
Yeah, go on, go on.
graduate school will just humble. Like, see, right now I'm the humblest of, like, I'm in my final year and I'm just like at this point I feel like even if you ask me 1 plus 1, I would have to think about 1 plus 1 before answering that is two, because I feel the higher you go, the more the self-doubt. Even if you have to speak out something, you want to make a deep thought and a deep thinking. Even at this point, sorry to say, even somebody, maybe someone in undergraduate, if someone speaks in undergraduate and speaks to me, it makes much more sense than when I'm speaking. That's the level of humility, like I am now. And I don't know what people like to put terms to it, like imposter syndrome, but maybe it could be, maybe not. But what I realized that people think that, oh, after the PhD you love to be called a doctor or stuff like that. In fact, if you add a title, I'm not even enthused, because then it questions your doubt whether you're what next. Like, are you capable of being able to stand alone? Because now education is finished and you are now a standalone researcher. Are you able to hold a group? Are you able to write the proposals? Are you able to do this? So there's a lot of questions that comes with finishing a PhD. And I don't know whether it's a final year thing. Maybe Janet could, if she comes in later, would be able to bet. But that's exactly the feeling. And well, you wouldn't say maybe language shock for me, because I mean it's in the UK, everybody speaks English, I can understand. But even the degree of speaking English, you would have to make sense. And you would you would have to, be able to communicate. Now, we always say that the bearer of English even speaks simple English. They can only say that Queen Elizabeth is dead. But we would like to say Queen Elizabeth has kicked the bucket. Who cares about kicking the bucket? We are coming from a place where our written English even conflicts with the spoken English.
Mm-hmm.
So you would like to use the big terms, but they don't really understand. You just speak the simple English and let them understand. Now, I work with an Indian professor, and see, Indians work 2 times as much as Africans do, maybe 10 times more. So, and if you open YouTube, most of the people that teach on stuff on YouTube are mostly Indians. And I work entirely in an Indian group. So, I mean, the speaking the science is very important. Speaking the engineering, using the terms when they are right, is very important. At the same time, you need to find your balance to be able to speak for other people to communicate. So, I think I'm putting in a lot more work and than probably a very usual domestic student.
Lois,
That's fact.
just a minute. I can also appreciate your accent. Your accent has
It
also,
has come.
yes, has really
This,
come. I'm putting in a lot of more work.
I
A
don't
lot
even
more.
realize it. Hello,
Yeah.
I don't even realize it. I
You
think that,
know, from the start, I
yeah,
even thought maybe you were born in the UK. Like
really,
you have a UK
really,
accent, basic. Like, oh my god.
probably
Just
because I teach as well here. I teach like high school and stuff like this. I get to mingle a lot with even like the locals, so I get to maybe pick here and there. But trust me, if I go to Ghana, maybe I'll start to speak. Hey, mostly then I'll just it will just it's just the dynamics of it. So I think that it's a process. I need to appreciate the process. And I'm saying I need to appreciate because as much as I'm speaking it, I want to be able to live it. As much as anybody here is listening to me, I want to be able to personalize it because it's an experience I'm also going through. And trust me, it's like I started with, it will humble you in every aspect. It will humble you in knowledge. It will humble you in speaking. It will humble you in thoughts process. And even with an engineer, you're learning so many equipment. Like I've had instances where there have been certain microaggressions, like somebody speaks and doesn't even realize that is racist, but I get to think back, like someone made a statement, and I'll never forget. Like he's a professor I was working with, and we are teaching. And in that experiment, I need a buddy. So a buddy is like somebody who helps to do something, yeah, because it's a very dangerous equipment. And another professor walked in, and he's like, "Oh, we've got our sleeves here. You can use them." In the instance, you will laugh about it, like but 2 minutes, I just stood there and I was like, no, this doesn't sound right. More so because he's a British and we are actually coming from a descent of that, so it didn't sit well with me. So being able to professionally point it out, you'll be outspoken. We are not as Ghana that, like, maybe it will challenge you on the level of outspokenness. You cannot just sit and put your hands in your demifadi and thinking that it will all be that. You need to be very outspoken and call out certain things. And yet, yana make it so no, because then it continues. So I think the whole experience has been challenging on all these various key terms I've used, and I wouldn't be able to point out outrightly what I need to, but that's it. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. I think I'll share a brief thing about mine because I was coming from a basic science background and moving into epidemiology. And I remember one of
Yeah,
my
I don't know
classes we
what is
started.
wrong with this thing now.
I think we can hear you now. So when I'm done, you can chip in. I could hear you when you just spoke. Adenkule. Can you hear me? Oh, sorry.
All right,
So
thank you. All right.
I remember going to my research method class, and then we started with, because I know like if you are doing an experimental biology,
Yeah,
you
I can
start
hear
by.
you. I don't know if you can hear me very well.
Yes, we can hear you all. So I go to this class and we start with research methodology, we start with epistemology, and we start with like theories, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Because I was so confused, because we are going to like theories in research and all those things. So I just told the what's the name, the professor, like, I think she also made something that was really important. She said like, because she was also coming from a biomedical background, and she said, I know if you're coming from this background, you'll be a little bit confused when you're starting these things, so you should bear with me when I say all this thing, but very soon. But it got to be one of the most like I got to appreciate it a lot. Like a lot of things down the line, I was like, oh, okay, this all these things play a role in the when you are doing your research and all those kind of things. And then like even though we are also in an English speaking like country, for me, I came to Canada. I'm not like it's different. It's not like you are not a native, so the writing you understand how your mates, like we had some Canadians in our class and they were used to the essay, like writing essays, writing projects, and it was so easy for them. But some of us were used to these short answers, so writing like this kind of projects and those things which are something you can never escape from, like you're writing 10 papers, you're writing projects, you're writing all those kind of things, were really tough from the beginning. But it also opens your mind. I think it's more of critical thinking. It's not a straightforward thing that just put the answer and go away. So that's some a little bit challenges you go through, but after you've gone through them, I think you would be okay with that. I remember, no, I wouldn't share this. I'll let Adekule continue because that would be too embarrassing. Continue.
Interested in the embarrassment, please. We are interested in the embarrassment.
So I remember, like you know, proofreading for some like these things. I had this class, and then I didn't do proofreading for the work that I was supposed to submit. And the professor sent me that it was a really bad grammar, like really bad grammar. Like, that was so embarrassing. So I took it back. I read through it. Realized like I was even writing RIGHT for WRIT. That was the tension. So you understand like all those kind of things. Oh my God, what was happening?
I guess
So
you now understand why we need to write IELTS and TOEFL, even though we are English speaking
oh,
country.
like
You
I
just
think
gave
I
us a
think like
perfect example.
yeah, like I think I don't know what was happening by then, but that's what you need. Sometimes you think like if especially if you are typing things, you think like you know what you are typing because your mind is different from what your hand like what you are typing. So you might think this is what I've typed. And if you don't give somebody to read through or you don't read through again, that's something people don't do. If you are not somebody who reads through what the work that you've written and all those things. Because you can read through a work that you did 2 years ago and you're like, what did I write? Because you feel like you are maturing as you go on, and then you get to know like, oh, you could do better and all those kind of things. So if you can let somebody read through your work for you, if you have a friend or something can read through, or you can also go through, and don't be doing last minute works, otherwise you are really going to be in a mess. Yeah. So but sometimes they do appreciate like when you speak to them, they're like, where are you from? You say from Ghana. Oh, and if you speak this fluent, they are surprised though, because they don't know why you're able to speak like such fluent English. So, but you can still not be as them. So that's it. Adenkule, please, you can share your experience.
Yeah, I think I didn't have much problem with language when I came to China because I came in 2019, and from 2020, China locked their border since then. And the only thing that I had to do then was to go to the lab, then come back to my room. No relationship, relating with people or having friends or whatsoever. No, I have that map from lab to class. to my room, lab to my room, lab to my room. So I had no even intention of making friends with maybe Chinese because I know I can't understand the language. Likewise, they can't understand my language. And in the lab, you just sit with your system. Even if they have question to ask you, they will never call. No, even if you go to them, they will never answer. It's like online charges. So there is nothing you want to learn from them. There is nothing they want to learn from you. And whenever we go to the class, the only thing that if there is a particular course that you need to learn or is certain lecturer is professor is teaching, and the same content maybe on Coursera or EDX that you can familiarize yourself with online, so that even if they have taught you and you do not understand like that, you can go online and learn those things. But even during my coursework, because in China, your first year is your coursework, and your second and third year is for you have to use those 2 years to do your research. So for that first year, I used YouTube as my class. I learned things from YouTube. Anything that I want to learn, I come to the YouTube and to YouTube to learn whatever I want to learn, and I just move on. So if I want to discuss with my professor prefer chatting than face-to-face conversation. Even if I go to my professor, WeChat. So we just carry our discussion to the WeChat, and whatever that I ask, he will surely answer. But me having a discussion, no, 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 he will not want that. So that is why I didn't face too much problem about language or of a thing, because I didn't have any course. The only problem I may face, I like gesticulation. If I want to express myself and I don't know what to say, I'll just put it in Google translation. I'll just type this one, then show. Oh yeah. If I type maybe the way Google will translate for you may be different from how the sentence construction of Chinese is different from English. The way the English will just go straight. No, maybe the subject will be the last in Chinese language, and the verb will come first. So the arrangement of their sentences is somehow funny. So even if I use translator to translate whatever that I want to buy or I want to relate with anyone, the thing may not translate. I will just gesticulate so that they will just understand what I want to say. Once I am done with you, I'm done. So that is why I didn't have any cost to just have anything. If you want to buy anything, I didn't have much language problem like that academically. It's only the social aspect of life that I didn't have. It's only the social aspect, because I didn't go to anywhere, I didn't travel, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, so that I won't even have any cost to do. But since I started my PhD, I have to relate with all of them. So I'm now facing that problem now, that language problem. I'm facing it now. So I do not have any other option. So about cultural shock, to me, I didn't experience much because I'm not expecting much from them, because I know we have different culture, and there are some things that we say in our side that are very offensive in China. You can't say to you in our side. You can easily say Laoshi, like that is maybe all these administrative something. You are now putting on weight. You are beautiful. It's an offensive word or sentence in China. So those
In
are the
Asia.
things that we are facing. We have to be very careful the way we talk here. So those are the things that I think so. Since then that I know that this thing, because of the cultural, I don't even cross my boundary. Talk more of orientating me. This is how we do in our way, and you don't tell them that this one is beautiful. Nah. It's not done anywhere. It's not done anywhere. So with that is the only issue that I think is is here in China. Those are the different things. Academically, I never had any issue because I didn't have anything to do. If you are expecting them to have a collaborative work with you, it's a no. It's a no. That is why uh, um, Postgraduate study in China is 99% self-study. It's a 99% self-study in China. So that's what I can say about that.
Okay, thank you. I just want us to. Does anybody have anything to share on this? If not, I want us to build on some of the points that were raised. Or Jeanette, you want to say something?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I guess like in my case, I guess my issues may I guess is smaller compared to everyone else's. So I originally went to a university in Toronto. And then I moved to another like city, London, Ontario. And even that was rough for me because in Toronto there's way more diversity. And the program I was in was like a very small, chemistry program was really small. So there was a lot more, what's it called? There was more of a community there. Um, so when I moved to Western University, it's a more research intensive like program. So like the standards are different and like it's predominantly white. So I had to kind of adjust because like, when I went to like TMU, I could just go to school, go home, so and like talk to my family. So like there were black people to talk to. At some point, like I was the only at Western, the only black student in my PhD program. Fortunately, now there's like 3 more now, but like it's really tough. So one of the things, especially when selecting schools or like a supervisor, you gotta pay attention to the size of the group because it depends on what you want. If you're the type of person that wants to who already got the research experience and it's fine with working with like alone or more self-directed. Well, everyone's self-directed, but some people are different. Like they need more guidance from a supervisor. Then like you kind of it's really hard, but I guess you have to talk to the students before you join. But like you gotta pick right. Or sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say. Basically, yeah, self-directed learning. Also, oh, sorry, I just saw that. But yeah, we can probably go back on that actually. But another thing I noticed actually also is like courses. So load managing. From my first to third year, I had to take courses, and then we had to do a seminar of our research that we did, like someone else's research, just to show our oral skills. So, you know what? I'm gonna stop that because I'm losing my train of thought, and I thought I had 3 more things or a thing to say, but I think I'm gonna go back with the flow. Sorry, everybody.
Okay,
I
that's
just got
okay.
really
You
distracted.
could pitch it in like later on once you
Yeah,
organize your thoughts. So yeah,
yeah.
I wanted I wanted to piggyback on some of the suggestions or some of the comments that have been made here. One of the theme was building community. I just realized that for you, it wasn't really an important aspect for you. But like for me personally, I think one of the ways I was able to survive, I'm surviving grad school is because I have built a community. So like that's the question I want to put out there for all of you. Like how have you been able to build community, and how has that changed the dynamics of your experience in grad school? Is it important or not? So whoever would like to take that. Okay, Jeanette, you could set the
I'll
ball
go
rolling.
first because like that is very very important. So when I moved to Western, I was fortunate to have friends during my undergrad there. So like the transition was smooth, but it was still very lonely. So I guess you can't see it, but like yeah, community is a big thing. So like we got Black and Chem that came from like the 2020 George Floyd incidents and a multitude of things, but like it's nice to see representation in your field because like it's predominantly white or depending on where you are, Asian, and like having people to talk to and relate to you kind of grounds you. So like you can't do things alone. And another thing I also looked into doing was And if it's possible, because mental health is very important, if you can go to counseling, depending on it depends on your insurance or whatever. But I was fortunate enough to join a group full of like Black, Indigenous, or persons of colors, so we can talk about our experience, because there are a lot of microaggressions, subtle racism, and like you're like by yourself and you're like questioning yourself, like going like, is that, should I be mad about that? And like you can't really put into words, but like talking with people to validate your feelings, it's it feels great, and then you start learning more and getting these resources. So yes, if you go into grad school, please, please, please find a community like a club, counseling, or anything, because it's a long journey and you can't do it alone.
Thank you. Before anybody would like to, I want to chip in something, and I do agree with you. Like if you could go into therapy, it's very good. So the good thing was my school, my university actually offered us free therapy, which I took advantage of, and it was helpful. So if you could afford, or if it's possible, that would be really great. So for me, one of the ways, like as I said, like being in France was really hard for me, and that was also because I didn't have the community. Like there were a few black, and even though we are all blacks, our experiences are also a bit different, because there were a few blacks in my class, but okay, that was also the issue. They also didn't have funding, so most of their free time they had to work, so that they didn't have that time to interact or go out and just talk. So when I moved to Canada, that was like my first priority before school started was to build communities. One of the ways I've been able to build communities is to use dating apps. I know it's unconventional. Like when I tell people, they're like, "We don't go find friends on dating apps and all those things." But
Uh-huh.
please, you're not going to date everybody you meet on the dating apps. There are just some people like it's just not going to work, and that's okay. So like one of the ways I build communities are dating apps. An example is there's Bumble. Bumble has the BFF section. There's Tinder. Unlike in Ghana or other countries where Tinder is only for sex, you just have to state explicitly in your bio what you are looking for. There's Hinge. You could also go to events, but sometimes like going to events, like there is this pressure. You don't know if when you talk to people, they are going to respond or not. So that's why dating apps are good avenues. And also there are Facebook, there are very lot of groups in your city. So I always advise people like you could join those groups, and there are international associations on your university campus, and when they organize events, just do try to attend, because having people is it's very very important. Like out of school work, like the loneliness and the depression, it's just nice to know that you have people. So if anybody has something to say, they could, or Gideon can take over now.
Okay. So I think that if you're in a country that the language barrier is very serious, I think you should have friends among the indigens, because in Korea here, accessing the bank, the subways, everything, you need a Korean to help you. So you just have to be open minded. I think that if you are outside of your comfort zone in another person's land, it's an opportunity to build a global community with everybody, and not necessarily making deep friendships with them, but get to understand and know each and every culture so that you can fit into anywhere you go. So I had some Korean friends. There are some Africans in my batch. I was the only Ghanaian. So there are some Africans who go to church with me, and some Koreans, some Indonesians, some Europeans. So you just mingle with everybody, get to understand their culture, how they think, their thought processes, and it's going to help you not to step on anybody's toes. Because if you don't understand the people you are with, you will not you'll not be able to relate well, and you always get depressed. And one thing about studying in Korea is it gets very depressing. If you have friends who study in Korea, you could ask them. They will tell you they've slipped into depression 1 or 2 times in their study, because there are times you just don't know what you are doing, and your professor wants results. They will come, I want results, and you don't even know what you are doing. You can't even install whatever you are supposed to do. So if you are able to talk to somebody, I think it helps. In my lab, I had a friend who had to go home because she was very depressed and wanted to kill herself. And I actually had to be policing her all around the whole semester until I asked them to take her home. So it gets very depressing in some parts of Asia. So just try to talk to people, and if you see that somebody is not acting normally, try to get closer and know what's wrong with them. Even if they would not tell you, just send some light and love to them, and it's going to um make somebody's day a better one. Yeah.
That's a very valid point, Christian, because we, as much as possible, as Ghanaians or even Africans, wherever we are, we try to want to mingle with our own self. We try to want to socialize, find ourselves in our whole Ghanaian community bubble or African community, African Caribbean community bubble, which helps because then, like Jenna said, you could share your what you're going through that even someone else from another nationality might not understand. But as much as possible, it's very important to also be able to mingle, like Christian has said. Even sometimes, like Barbara was saying, it's very difficult to probably create a conversation because you don't know whether they are interested. Start watching, what I say, start watching TV shows, start listening to the news, even if where you find yourself, maybe it will be in their language, but even helps with your language. I think that if you watch the news or try to watch a show, something that's going on, you can easily create a conversation around that. Like anyone, anytime anyone hears my name, Lois, the first thing they say is Superman, Lois and Clark. Okay. I didn't even know it was called Lois. They said, hey, I mean, my mom said it is Lois. Nobody should go and call me Lois or something. It is Lois. And it's like, oh, spell it Lois or Lois. I say, whatever, like, it's up to you. Okay. So, I mean, we get to start talking from the Superman point of view, from the Lois point of view. If there's a movie, if you've watched Game of Thrones, it was shot here and then here, you can start a conversation. Have you watched it? Or maybe start a conversation like that. Be more like, proactive or yeah. Don't just find yourself in the Ghanaian community bubble. If you are invited, they are going to the pub. You don't drink alcohol, maybe you do. Still hang around, listen to them. If they're playing a game, be conscious about the game. Where we are coming from, Charlie, no time for games. What are we playing games for? But yeah, because like very apt in learning those things, and yeah, I'm sure you mingle find yourself. If you still have plans of staying after, you have to make that conscious effort. Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning the games. Ludo, like in my research group, we had like a hangout and we're playing Ludo. Ludo that we've been playing all our lives, like my friends from North Africa. Like the rules they were saying and the rules, like it even turned into a fight because like I'm very competitive, and the rules they were saying that we used to play the Ludo, like they're like there's no back kick, like,
Um,
and I'm like,
Home kick, if we go
like
call it.
no, you can't do that. Like, and when you
That's
play six and somebody is on your like the starting point, you
you
can't
can't
play. Like you have to wait
go.
for them to. I'm like,
I'll be fighting.
it's like I'm playing the game. I'm so upset because it's like, and I'm like, you know what? Just tell me your rules and let's just play with it. So yeah, that was what I wanted to chip in.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys for sharing your experience. I think we all have similar experiences in terms of trying to fit in. It's always a very big problem fitting in, like coming from far, because sometimes you can even meet your own mates from class and then it's like they don't even know you. So that would be a very big culture shock. But you came for a purpose and then you have to fulfill it.
Mhm.
Not to say because you're coming from Africa, you should feel like I'm too strong and all. If you need some mental health,
Yeah.
assistance, you need to see a psychiatrist or no, a psychologist. Sorry, psychiatrist is a bit too deep. Psychologist, you need to see one, and then I think most of the schools have mental health like AIDS and all those things, so you should be able to go. Don't say that I'm from Africa, so I'm too strong. When it hits you hard,
Hmm.
your strength will be lost. Please see them. Okay, so we would, I think, we have about 30 minutes, so we just talk about this quick. I guess we are all like into research, so we'll share a little bit about our research and then our relationship with our professors on how like we get on with them to move like forward. Because I've seen people who have forfeited like their PhDs, MScs, and all those kind of things because of the relationship between them and their professors. Some people have been so like frustrated because at a point in time, professor said, "No, I cannot be with you anymore." And then, especially if you are taking funding from that particular professor, then you will get to know that your graduate school journey has been like let me say it's off, and then that can be very depressing. Like a lot of people have gone through like a lot of bad mental state because of this. So let's share something about what we're doing and how we are relating with our professors and how we're going out with the topic that we are doing.
And this is the destination.
So anyone can start. Jeanette, do you want to start? Um,
Okay. Okay, so mine is rough. But I can't really say a lot because like I unfortunately with grad school you have to rely on your references. So I'll try my best. So yeah, this is really important when you're selecting a supervisor, and it's really hard because like people find out after the fact, but for the people who are applying, don't only look at the research. Like you have to like your personality with your supervisor is very important. The research can be amazing and you can be excited about it, but if you don't have a good experience with your supervisor, that experience could be ruined or worse. And so that's why it's very important to talk to current students or like previous students because um, someone will hopefully tell you the truth. Um, Unfortunately, with my supervisor and me, our personalities do not mesh, and unfortunately, some things has happened behind the scenes. In the end of the day, I'm gonna get my degree. But it kind of sucks because I feel like I'm not getting the support that I need. But you know, like I need to get my degree, and like I'm not gonna let this part of my journey be ruined. Like one bad experience doesn't define define your whole like experience. So so far I'm making progress. I have to have a third party to help with communications, and it's been okay, but we'll see. That's all I gotta say.
I also think like there are some signs and symptoms. I would like to use that word. Signs and symptoms. You need to know when you are going to a potential supervisor in your village. I remember last year I contacted one supervisor at Oxford for my PhD. I think he got back. We wrote everything, the let me say proposal and everything, and I got invited for an interview.
Mhm.
I thought like I think he was notified, but he didn't say anything. I told him we'll have an interview, this, that. So we had to work on a presentation for my proposal and everything. And then unfortunately, I didn't get in from the interview, and this man ghosted me. So I was like, imagine I had like used him as my supervisor from the start. I got to know his interaction was poor. So I was like, okay, it's good I didn't even get in with this person. So you should also know those kind of things.
I see a comment. I'm just gonna like jump in. So someone asked, do you have to seek consent from the supervisor before contacting his or her current and previous students? Okay, this is a red flag. If your potential supervisor doesn't tell you to talk to his or her students, that means something could be going on. So like you do not have to ask for permission. If someone wants you to ask them permission, there is something wrong. So if you see that, or run, like no matter what, or run away. But yeah, you don't have to like just ask them. Like if they have something good to say about their supervisor, they will. If they have something bad, thank them because like you don't want to be misled and go through a shitty situation. Sorry, you don't want to go through a bad situation. So like ask away.
Thank you. I just want to piggyback on that. So, like for my interview, actually, my supervisor actually came with his student, and like even in all his interview, because like this year, like when he was picking new students, I actually sat on the panel for choosing the new students, like picking up the new students. So he actually comes with his students, so like you have the chance to talk to them, and also even afterward, like he sends you the email of his students. Like if you need anything, just contact them. So like throughout my whole application process, like it was his students that helped me. And I think it's also really a good thing. And as Gideon said, you actually see the signs and symptoms, like if they were good. Like, even for my supervisor, like right from the start, like I knew he was going to be amazing because of how we interacted during the interview afterwards. Like, and now that I'm here, like he's been super amazing. So sometimes we are so much concerned about the funding that like even when things prick us, like we just ignore it. But one thing I've come to understand is nobody we have this mentality that we are the victims, or like getting accepted into grad school, somebody is doing you a favor. And that's something you have to know, is that nobody is doing you a favor. When you get into grad school, you got in because of your merit, you got in because you had something to offer. So even if this person does not, like even if you don't work with this particular person, you will finally get somebody, because it's you as a person, it's what you have as an individual. And that's something that you should always take notice of. You are also the prize. Actually, you are the prize, because you are going in to do good work. So you are the prize. And when you enter any interview, you should always have that in mind, that nobody is doing you a favor. It's a give and take scenario, unless they are giving you a scholarship. And even if they are giving you a scholarship, it's because of good work you've done prior. So like you've done the work and somebody is just showing you appreciation. And this is what I want everybody to know. You should be able to know your value. You should be able to communicate your value, and nobody is doing you a favor. So yeah, whoever wants to go should go.
Before I think one of the things that we go through as international students trying to hop into graduate school is that we just want the opportunity. So we just want to grab anything like that comes our way. So even if we get to communicate with students are telling us this, oh, you've gotten the opportunity, why are you even complaining? I need this opportunity. But you should be careful, because when you get in, especially if it's for a PhD, and imagine you've gone like 3 years, 4 years, and then even anything can happen within. One of the best things I ever had was my previous supervisor. And the first sign he showed was when I got to the airport, he was there waiting for me. I didn't even know he was coming to pick me up. And he gave me so much opportunities, even as a student and after school, that like now I'm even rejecting jobs because of him, because he gave me so much experiences. So you should be able to look at all those signs, and then don't just go in because I want to, because you might regret it. So that's what I want to chip in. So I think other people want to talk.
See, this matter, God, I don't know. I wish it's not recorded or something. I
It is
can
making you
spit
emotional. Eh?
like yo, like
She wants to rant.
yeah, I want to rant. I wish it's not even on social media or something. Like we have the people on Zoom or something. When you say it has flagged and it's gone. See, sometimes you can't see the signs. You cannot. You won't. If you find yourself in such a situation, so you're talking about graduate school experience, like Janet said, you are in for the degree. Just get your thing and go. It's like you're in a toxic relationship for like 3 to 4 years. At least you are at the end of the tunnel, you know that it will end. Because see, one thing I've realized, I think maybe in that journey, is that I've tried to separate the person's personality from his professional work. So we all have personality. Obviously, maybe there are certain personalities I have that he might not also like or something. But my work is my work, and we have to do that. I think that's what's keeping me. Because honestly, like my supervisor came to pick me up from the airport, what you guys are saying. He put me in touch with all the student, everything. but the person is not what the person is. That's it. Everything that you could actually think it is, but see, I want to say something, but like we are on air, we are outside. You get it? So I cannot lay it down low here, but
You are bunting
You
we
are
are
to
we
born
are
safe.
until we are outside, so I cannot lay here. So sometimes I can say we yesterday I was just reflecting on something that do we actually take the advice we actually say? Because when you find yourself in that position, the advice might not be what you're taking. Like when you're so eager to leave Ghana in this economic crisis and you get a PhD, the last thing on your mind will be actually looking deep down into the supervisor's type. Probably that's why we are having this conversation. But when you find yourself after trying 100 applications, 60 applications, and you get that one opportunity, the last thing on your mind is looking out for who the personality of the supervisor is.
Yeah, you
You
don't
just
care.
want to leave. You don't even care. So that's the scenario. That's the realist. Okay. But probably that's why we are having this conversation. So that people are raised that you need to find out. But see, I have been a victim of people who have come to our group, who have asked who the person I'm working at. I've said so many beautiful things. God forgive me. Okay.
Oh
And
my
they come in
God.
later and said, you said this, you said that. And I'm like, see, this my thing. It's a give or take affair. You also wanted to leave. Okay. God forgive me, but that's the truth. And I'm going to lay it down here well. There's sometimes you might contact us. I've been on the panel choosing the student. And in my mind, I was like, how you wish, I wish you say that I don't want it. How I wish you say you don't want it. Like on the realist. But they're not thinking that way. And so it's
before you
good.
continue, Lois, can I ask a question? I think
Yeah.
a lot of people have issues with supervisors who are immigrant. Is that true?
It's a very serious thing, I said, in my next life, probably take a take a country person. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not going to answer the question direct, but I'm just trying to beat and switch around it because honestly, it's a very difficult thing. In my next life, I'll probably choose an in-house person, and
I
that's
think
it.
yeah, though, so I feel that the immigrant professors think that they work their I don't want to say ass that they work their way through to get to where they are, so they have to also stress you to get there. I think that's that the poor mindsets they come with. So the way how they found things easier, or how they could direct you to take the easier path they learned later in life, they don't want to do that. They would rather want you to stress just like they did, so that yeah, you've also passed through that.
Probably we should host such a conversation on recording and out air. I have a lot to say about that. About red flags sometimes they come as green. Then all of a sudden they are changing colors. And so it's a very dicey pathway in getting a supervisor and looking out for a supervisor. I think the question was two part, but we've
Yeah.
ended up dwelling on it. The other was the
Like,
research.
how are you dealing with that kind? Like, are you just okay? Just like Jenna said, I just want to complete school, so just deal with it and go away. Or
I think the main thing is separating, like I said, separating the personality from their professional work. If you're able to separate that, in my mind, that's how I'm dealing with it. So I said the person is a nice person, but professionally not knowing how to manage things very well,
that's
and
true.
it's having a yeah, and I'm moving through that. But apart from that, honestly, there are saying things that I don't understand, and probably I also say that maybe you don't also understand me. You get like you're saying, Janice was saying they're on two parts, like they're two personalities and probably it's clashing so hard. But yeah, you just here getting what you want. And one thing that's also helped is that I know the person through and through. I mean, for 3 years on to 4 years of my life, I've probably been the longest serving as at that point. So I know the person. I know his next action. What you are doing tomorrow, you come and say this. So when he does it, I'm not enthused. That's it. So when people are having that anxiety and I'm like, I'm just watching and it's like, Bring your worst. Like I've seen it all. Like that's what
Been
it is.
there, done that. Now why you
Yeah.
gangalia?
Survival of the
I'm,
fittest.
uh,
Survival of the fittest.
so they come and ask you a question. It's like, relax. This is what you do. And the next video, the person is doing that. How did you know? So so I'm able to advise the next people that come. It's like how I wish they have said that I don't want it. I got another opportunity. That kind of thing. But it's like, yeah, this is what he's going to do, and that's so they at least. But me, I didn't have that. So I was shocked on every levels. That's the point. I was shocked. I didn't have that support. But me, I'm able to advise the people behind me. That's the best offer I can help them. So they're able to look out for those things. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone
Mhm.
else, please?
Yeah, so
Yeah, I want to keep in something there. I think research in graduate school, it depends on the school culture. Like when I came to China, I was like in the school, we were told to look for professor in our first year. And the kind of research you do now depends on the professor you are working with. And when I was in Nigeria, during my undergraduate, I did something under networking. But when I came to China, very unfortunate that there was no supervisor working in that direction. So I had to switch to software engineering. So I want everyone to just know the potential graduate students should know that it is possible that you may switch your field whenever you get to abroad. You might be thinking, oh, I like this research area, I will be doing this. Unfortunately for you, when you get to the graduate school, you may end up switching to another research area. And another thing that I want to say is that I want the potential graduate student to know that it is impossible, almost impossible for you to get to the graduate school and be expecting your supervisor to be chasing you all around, do this, do that, do that. No, no, no. It is possible that you are going to do everything 99% by yourself. And I've seen a situation whereby the supervisor, a professor, will not even ask you to do anything. He will just be looking at you. When it is 3 years to graduate, who will graduate you? If you like, publish. If you like, don't publish. Later, just come that you want to graduate. Who will graduate you? So that kind of professor will never tell you to do this. You'll be the one to come up with a certain problem. If the problem is okay for him and that kind of problem can graduate you, he will ask you to go ahead and solve the problem. But thinking that you can, and one thing about that professor is that there is no how you can just go to one kind of internet and bring one kind of research problem to him. It's not possible. He is so versatile, so that there is no how you can just hide anything for him. If you like, go and reframe the question or research problem anywhere. You can never go through him. So that is what, and he will not disturb you to do this. So I'm putting it out there that you should not think that we have different kind of PIs. So some will be telling you what have you achieved today, and some will not even think of, they will not even think you exist at all. You'll be the one to be chasing them around that, professor, this is what I just did and I realized this, and you just ask, okay, prepare a PPT and come to my office so that you come and defend, or prepare a PPT and come online to defend it. Let me see what you have done. So it is impossible to get don't let me put it that it's impossible. In I don't know if it happens in other Asian countries, particularly in China. As a master student, they will not be chasing you around. They will not be chasing you around. They will just tell you, you know that this is what you want. Okay, I'm working in this certain area. Just develop a problem in that area, then come and let us discuss about it. And some professor will even tell you that before you graduate under me, you have to publish this kind of papers. And specifically in my previous school, where I did my masters, they don't my supervisor would never reckon with anything in less than rank B paper journal. He will never accept anything less than rank B. All your papers must be submitted to rank, at least rank B. So all these things the potential graduate student must know that they are coming to do some certain works, not that they are just coming to do. Though there are some schools that will not disturb you for publication before getting your master's. But in my previous school, you must get a publication, at least one in SCI before you graduate in that school. So that's what I want to say.
Okay. I want to say a little bit about doing a PhD in Asian country. So, um, especially in Korea, the professors here are like gods. They decide to graduate to. It doesn't matter what was on your admission letter, how many years of PhD. People stay here up to 10 years in that PhD program until the professor decides that you're okay to go. So what they do is that if they see that you're some of them, if they see that you're a good student and you help his lab, you help them get funding, your papers. So most of your papers, he will have his name on them. Some of them, your name might even be the last, even though you wrote them. Yeah, and
Yes.
yeah, it happens. And
Yeah.
when you have finished your thesis and you want him to um, approve for you to graduate, he will tell you, no, you have to stay one more year, one more year, one more year. And you end up being there 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
Doing what
Until
exactly? If I may
sometimes,
ask.
pardon me.
One more year doing what exactly?
So he will
Research.
just tell you he's not satisfied with your work, but he's not going to tell you what he's not satisfied with. All he wants you to do is to do his lab work, train the people that are coming,
Oh,
because
playback,
sometimes
right?
the kind of expertise you gain in his lab, he feels that if you go, he's going to lose you. So it's either he signs a contract with you that you can graduate, but you have to do a postdoc 2 years in my lab. And even after the postdoc, if you want to get a job in that country, he will decide that I'll give you a recommendation or not. So you have to be under him until you are frustrated and decide to go. So in some of these Asian countries, the professors might be so nice, commending your work and all that, but in a way they'll just be keeping you for their own purpose. Actually, my school doesn't do a PhD, and our professors here they are highly regulated. So these things do not happen here, but in most Korean universities where you come with um, professor scholarship, it means that you are professor's lab rats. That's what you do. You just stay in the lab and work and work and work. And in Korea, mostly the earliest you can sleep as a student is maybe 3 a.m. 3 a.m. because you always have to be in the lab working. You always have to be in the
I
lab.
like Lois' expressions when you say this kind of thing.
Yes. So if you are actually working with somebody who has studied in Korea in another university, assuming I go to a university in the US or UK and I'm staying in the lab, you might think that orientation it's just because my sleep pattern is set to 3 a.m. I just can't sleep. I need to get things done. So and my experience in my lab, my professor is very enthused about papers. So you have to write a paper for him. And he doesn't care what you write, but it needs to get into SCI and maybe MDPI or something. So you have to study on your own. And I remember recently when I published my paper, we we're discussing in class, and he mentioned something that I did. He said, "Oh, you worked on smart Korean reactor." I said, "Professor, no. It means he didn't even read my paper. He doesn't even know the nitty-gritties of my paper." So yeah, it happens. It happens. In Asia, no professor is going to chase you to get to know what you're about. But one thing I like about my professor is that he always wants to see progress, even though he doesn't really care about what you are doing. But he wants to see that you have moved from step A to step B, and he has giving you all the trust that I know that you are doing the right thing. So just move on. And so you have to make sure that you step up, you step up to the expectation he has set for you. And another thing is, they usually treat you based on who you are. Koreans care about appearance a lot, how you look, who is your father, which country are you coming from? Does your country have a special business relationship with the company that gave you a scholarship? So if not, then they don't respect you. So recently we were just joking in our lab, and I told him, Professor, do you know I'm a princess and the king will be coming for my graduation? He was like, oh my God, why didn't you tell me? And all my lab mates, we are all blacks. And they were like, yeah, Professor, we knew. She just doesn't like talking about it. And this man will come to the lab and he will greet me first. Hello, Christina. How are you? As if he wants to bow. So I'm like, so if I had told you earlier, how was I going to be treated? So yeah, actually, Asians like to respect you based on your status and who knows you, who you are. And if you find yourself in such a position, you don't need to feel that you are being discriminated against. Yes, discrimination, and you can't do anything about it, but you just have to leave them in their folly. I remember when we came, we just lived by a nuclear power plant, and they took only Europeans and some Egyptians, but we, the black like my skin, they did not take us. So I got so irritated. I went to ask, Professor, why didn't you take us? You promised to take us there. He said, I don't know. I don't. So I seem to be a bully in this school because I would usually go up, and one thing Asians are scared of is if you actually go to question them on something they clearly know they've done wrongly, they feel scared. They think that they are going to raise a flag of racism because they don't want to be seen by the world as racist. But yeah, that's what they do. So that's a little bit of my experience.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Lois, do you have something to say?
Oh, I'm okay. The impressions I'm getting, when sometimes you are in that, you don't even realize it's wrong. When you are in it, you don't realize it's wrong until you move out of it before you realize that that wasn't healthy. Because then you are competing with the world. You are not within that circle, and you're competing with the world. How does the balance feel? There's a lot of things. We can have a different topic, of course, to have that discussion.
Yes, I totally agree with you. So, like before we end, like we have a few minutes, there are some questions that I just want to put on board so that if people have answers to, they could help. Then we can we can call it a day. So I can't find the question, but one person talked about. Okay, I found it. So I want to know any tips on finding current students in a program. Like for me personally, what I do is I just go to the university's website, and normally they do have a list of students they are supervising. Like if anybody knows any other means or ways, and you could just, or you could actually straight ahead just ask them, like, can they give you names of students who they've worked with that you want to have a chat with them. As I said, you are the prize. So like make sure that when you decide to go anywhere, or when you decide to make any decision, like you have the full picture to decide. So if anybody has anything to say, you could just chip it in.
I think LinkedIn, you can just type the name of the school, and yeah, first connections, second connections, third connections. First connections is more like they'll try and screen out based on maybe things you have in common, like KNUST. So the person might have gone to KNUST and find themselves there. Second connections would be people far away a bit, alumni far away. And third connections would be like they're just in the school. So I think LinkedIn is actually the best. Just type the name of the school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what the person wants to know, like in a particular program. Okay, well, it's the same thing. You still see the program, so you just have to filter through. So yeah, it's the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, it helps. Yeah.
Any other person wants to say something, or I put on the other question?
Or sometimes, yeah, sometimes the group has a social media handle.
Yeah.
So yeah, check if the group that you're joining has a social media handle. You can follow the social media handles. Then definitely you get to see that maybe a student might have gone for a conference. This my student has been tagged or something. Then you can search out their names. Even maybe they don't have a Twitter handle, or they don't have a handle on social media, but the name will be there. Then you can just go to Google Scholar or ResearchGate, just type the name. Then you definitely see the university and the school, so the email will be there. That also helps. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is: the professor has agreed to be my potential supervisor for master's program in political science without an interview. Is it normal? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I.
think
Oops,
okay.
sorry.
Sure.
Depends on
Yeah.
the school.
It depends,
Yeah.
but like I've seen cases where like some people like they didn't really have an interview. Like it was more like a informal discussion because like the supervisor already wanted them. Um, that happened with me. Though, like if that happens, you probably should just be safe do your due diligence, like talk to the students, like or have more or try to ask questions that could help. Like it's hard because you don't know until you get in there too. And I've seen cases where like some people actually went through the interview process and they actually present their work. So it varies. You could say it's yeah, I would say it's normal, but it depends on the person and the professor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we can see it very well, I think what is happening here is as a master student, that means the professor asks you to go and apply that he already accepted you as a student. That means the professor do not have funding. That is one. Secondly, that means the school automatically consider this is not 100% sure. Is either the school automatically consider a postgraduate student for funding, or the professor is expecting you to fund yourself. If the professor is going to fund you, there will surely be an interview. With everything that I have been saying, if a professor will accept you as a research assistant, because through postgraduate studies, I don't know how it happened in other places, but for Canada and the US, for postgraduate studies, is either you get teaching assistantship, research assistantship, or fellowship. Those are the three ways that you can be funded. But if you are going to get that research assistantship, I am 100% sure that the professor will surely ask for an interview. But if maybe the professor is now thinking that you might be granted a TA, which is teaching assistantship or fellowship, or the professor is expecting you to fund yourself. That is what I can say about that.
Adepka, thank you for bringing this up. So it's always very important to explicitly ask if you are going to get funding. So just because you have somebody who is willing to be a potential supervisor, that's good. But I always advise people to ask, am I going to get funding? And even if it's possible to ask for the details of the funding, because some programs will require you to have a supervisor. It doesn't mean that they are going to fund you. And it's also the whole idea of the interview is for them to get to know you because they don't know you from anywhere. So like this stage is for them to get to know you. So if they don't know you and they are not willing to have an interview with you, on what basis are they taking you? So I'll advise Nanadra to send an email to the supervisor and ask, does this offer come with a funding, or you have to figure out the funding on your own? So yeah, if does anybody have anything to say on this question?
I guess
Well,
like okay.
sorry, I want to say that there is a difference between go and apply and I have accepted you. There are two different things. Go and apply, I have accepted you. There are two different things. If a professor will accept you, it is more than go and see. Last year, I applied to almost 16 schools in the US. Go and apply. Everything was go and apply. Everything was go and apply. Go and apply and mention me in your SOP. Go and apply and mention me in your statement, personal statement. There are two different things. All the admission I got, there was no funding. So it is better you distinguish between go and apply and mention me, and I will supervise you and accept you in my lab. Please, you have to distinguish the two.
But a little bit of advice to Nanajo as well. Is it possible that you can ask for a letter of support from that potential supervisor to add to your? I know she's commented that she wants to draft a graduate assistantship letter. So that means that she has the admission but not the scholarship. So she's now going to apply for the graduate assistantship. If it's possible to also get ask the supervisor for a letter of support as your supervisor, it will really help in your graduate assistantship because a lot of people apply without it. So if you have actually had a leeway with that, that would also help. I mean, that's just on top of my head. Yeah.
And for me, I think like it also depends on you understanding the admission process and application process from the website to understand that is this program a sponsored or a funded program. And if you are supposed to contact the supervisor, like it's done in Canada, if you are doing a research program, you're supposed to contact the supervisor, and the supervisor agrees to supervise you, and then some kind of money from his research or the department is committed to your studies. So you have to also understand these dynamics when you are also applying, so that you get to know that contacting this supervisor means I'm going to get a research like funding, or I'm not going to get it. Because I remember there was this school in Antwerp. I applied that one. There was no, so I contacted some supervisor, and they were like, "Okay, if when you come and meet me, and we can do your research." That didn't mean they're going to sponsor me. They were just saying, "Okay, when I come and pay my own fees with my own money, they are going to sponsor me." So you have to really understand the basics of the communication with the person, and then probably also tell the supervisor, "Please, I want to meet you, have a discussion with you if you are okay," and then you can discuss all these things. They are not like, I think they are, some of them are more receptive, so you can have that discussion with them. Barbara, do you have anything to? I think our time is fast spent. Do you have anything to say? Then we can have our
Um, I'd
remarks.
like to say thank you for all agreeing to do this with us, and thank you for all the people who have been with us for this conversation. We've gotten a lot of feedback from this conversation, which we will use to organize the current session. So because this it's live, is actually going to be on YouTube. So if you have friends or families you think the session will be useful to and they couldn't make it, you could just share the link with them. And before Gideon closes the session, I'd like each and everyone to like what advice would you give to your younger self when you started postgraduate study, because now you've gone through the experience. So what advice would you give, not to the viewers but to your own younger self when you started the process? What did you wish you knew, and what did you wish you had done earlier on during the process, which would have made life a bit easier or better for you? Then afterwards, Gideon could close the session and we could call it a day. So thank you. So who will start?
I can go first. So if I were to tell my younger self something or some advice, I would. I mentioned it multiple times, I believe. Don't put your eggs in one basket. I have a tendency, especially when you're applying to a professor, when you like either you really like the research or like the thought of them, like don't zero in on them. Like I wish going back, I looked at as many options as I can, because one, it's good to get that experience, like applying to different places, and two, seeing what's out there. Now I'm starting to do that now, especially for my postdoc. Um, I'm trying to look at many professors, and hopefully, I will find a spot that works better for me. Because yeah, it's really important because your supervisor can make or break your experience throughout your degree. So you have to be very selective. If you have the privilege to, of course, like very selective and like look at as many options as you can.
I think I'll go next because mine is also similar to Jeanette, and also like for me too will be not to put my eggs in one basket. As I said from the start, I just applied to four schools for my masters. I got into three, I went to one. For my PhD, I just applied to one and I got in. So like I wish like before like I had just diversified and to choose more options. So that's actually I'm mentoring somebody and that's one of the things we are doing is to in as much as he's gotten an offer, I feel it's not enough. I feel that like we should apply to a number of them. And now like you become the boss, like, okay, I don't want this, I don't want that. Like I always advise people is to just have a lot of options so that when you finally choose, you know that you are choosing because you want to do this, not because that's the only option you have. So my advice would be don't put your eggs in one basket and do a lot of applications and choose from that.
Okay, I would say that you don't necessarily need a first class to get into graduate school or to get a funding. You don't necessarily need an upper or a lower. You just need to have something that gives you a competitive advantage. So if you are not having the first class, you should try to build some work experience, some volunteering experience, some internship experiences, something that would build your experiences so that when you write a proposal or when you write your statements of purpose, whoever is reading it knows that this person's transcripts does not really reflect what is embedded in them, and I would want to give them a chance. Everybody needs a chance, even the past students, the third class students, the second class lower students, they all need that chance. And you know our educational system in Ghana, we have those who can go and chew and pour and then they can forget, and they are all first class students. We have the second class uppers and the lowers who would try to write what they understand, and lecturers will say it is not in my slide, so you are wrong, and they'll be getting poor grades. So if your grades cannot speak for you, let your work experiences speak for you. Let your volunteerism, your um, extracurricular activities speak for you. And there's so much funding in just having some extracurricular activities or in having some kind of work experiences. There's so much funding than the first class people have been brainwashed into. Now recruiters know that in Africa you just have to chew poor pass and forget. But what is in you that you can actually bring out to the world? That's what's most important. Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to say something there. If you have a good profile, maybe first class and maybe research experiences, maybe theory and whatsoever, please apply to the first 50, first 100,
Oh my goodness.
Oh, for a moment, I thought I was the one. Well, anytime I'm asked this question, I always say that
can you hear me very
trust
well?
comes.
No,
You're
you are
frozen
right.
on the
Hello?
screen.
Like we can hear your voice, but your face is frozen.
Okay. So you pick your school from maybe first 50, first 100, first 200, first 500. Don't just pick your school from first 50 and stay there. No, you are competing with people around the world. So don't just pick there. Randomize it and pick schools. That is one. Secondly, if you are applying, if you have a good research experience and you want to apply to Canada, please consider U15. We have some schools that we call U15 in Canada. Consider them. Another thing that I want to say is, if after your bachelor, if you are going to maybe America or Canada for your masters or PhD, don't just think of masters alone. Take your transcript, go to west.org. You will see a tool there that you can use to convert
Adequate.
your.
Adekule, sorry. So, like, the advice we want is what advice you would have given to your own younger self, not to the general public. So, for you on your journey, what advice would you have given to yourself on your journey when you started the process?
Yeah, during
Okay.
that time, I didn't
Okay.
consider anything US when I was doing it. Yeah, if I have that kind of opportunity again, I would just consider the US. And I was even thinking, if I convert my CGPA to 4 points, I know US only the CGPA they consider is 3.0. I will just shoot my shot to anywhere in the US. So, but during that time, I did not even consider them at all in my processes. I all my schools were basically in other countries. For now, if I want to advise myself, I will just shoot my shots in all the countries around the world. All.
Okay. Anytime I'm asked this question, I always say that I'm too stubborn. My younger self will not listen to the advice I had today. That's me. Anytime an elder person says something, I'm just like, you don't see until you get there. That's the point. So I honestly think that I wouldn't listen, but still, I'll just tell you that if that's what you want, you're going to learn through the face. You can have all the advice, but your story is different, and so you will live a different story to tell today. And so don't be too hard on yourself. Give yourself time. If you're a man in Africa, we've been taught that a man doesn't cry. I beg, please cry if you have to. If you're also putting in application, the admission board are not like our house witches. Please sell yourself as much as possible. Every little thing that you've had to do, please sell it. Please write it out with a lot of confidence. Document, even if you give 1 hour, 2 hours of your time, document it on your CV. Anything you have to do for to get that graduate opportunity that you want, do it. If you find yourself with a supervisor who is not very kind, you don't have a lot of privilege, as we some people do have. Two things: you give up on it and go look for another person who might actually be much worse or better. The ball is in your court. We actually don't know what the future holds. So I always say that don't be too hard on yourself. Give yourself break and time to learn through the phase, and it builds your story. It makes you who you are, different from the other person. And that's all I'll have to say to my younger person.
Thank you. So, have we all spoken? I think Gideon, you be the last person, then you could call it a day. And I had fun. Thank you all once again.
Okay, guys. What would I say? I would I say like what I would say is that um for me, there are a lot of things like your mates, like my mates saw me to be overambitious when I told them of my journey, but I never let it like. So when I got opportunity, that's when they got to know I wasn't joking. I tried it some many times, like maybe over 2 years, and it finally worked. So and don't give up. I think I know somebody who just gave up from her first like application, and then she got it. She was crying like I can't do this. Like just your first one. We asked Christina, she did 200. Then you understand life is more than that. So there are a lot of people doing so many things. I know we feel face a lot of challenges, even from the application itself. Your uh, previous tutors giving you recommendation is also a hassle from our part of the world, and so many. But like just put in the application. The application period is now, so put your documents together, put in your application, and then trust in whatever you trust in. Pray if you are a Christian or a Muslim, whatever you believe in. Trust your God too and be ambitious, and you're going to reach higher. For me, one of the things that really made me go through this was when I applied to Oxford for a master's degree and I got opportunity to be interviewed for the program. Even that day, the internet messed up, like Ghana thing, and I was working in the rural area. That was when I told myself, "Oh, then I'm gone," because I didn't see myself there. But when the opportunity came, I was like, "Oh, then I can go anywhere I want to go to." So don't give up. apply, and then you get the opportunity. So today, like we said, we had a discussion, like a round discussion about so many things. Then in our next episode, we'll be going to specifics, and then we've drawn a lot of things from what we've discussed today that we will be discussing. I think there were some of them that were a little bit sensitive to people, and then there were them that were also engaging. Like I had a really engaging conversation because it's been a long time I had this kind of things. Apart from talking to my roommate, from people from diverse like experience, background, and all those kind of things. So I think you should prepare for your graduate study and then just be so to become your way another time. We want to say thank you for joining us, and then you can share with anyone who couldn't join, and then we would also let you know if we have anything in what we are going to discuss in our next episode. So thank you all for coming, and probably we'll say bye bye now if Barbara doesn't have anything to say.
Thanks for having us. Good night or good morning.
Oh.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming.
Morning.
Thank you.
It's